So welcome to Sage People Lightning. During this presentation, I'm going to go through the main changes to the user experience. So these are around the system setup, the way you get between apps, so the app switcher, how you look after the page layouts, and around reports and analytics. So to start off with, just to show you how to get back to Salesforce Classic, in case you do want to get back there to kind of check anything. We've got this little guy in the corner, so click here. And then we have this switch to Salesforce Classic at the bottom, and this will just take you back to the system as you recognize it today. Okay, so I'm going to go back into Lightning now. Okay, so some aspects of the system will be recognizable, so you'll be able to tell what screens you're on. For example, we can see if this is the home page. Like Classic, we still have our dashboards, but what we can do differently in here is we can actually configure different components, which we will go through. One of the main changes is how you change between apps. So now there is this little app button in the corner. So if I click on this, this will bring up all the different apps that we can get to in the system. What it will also do at the bottom, it has every single object that is in the system. So for example, I can use this search bar on the top, search for reports, and then it will bring me up everything that's got reports as an object. Okay, so the way we get to the setup menu has also changed. So now it will be using this little cog. So you can click here and go setup. So obviously it looks slightly different, but same as before, we do have a useful quick find. So we can search as we did before to find whatever we're looking for. One of the most noticeable differences, and probably the best one in the setup menu, is we now have what's called an object manager. So rather than having to go all the way through object and find a different object, we can just come straight here. And then we've also got a new edition of a quick find, so we can search for team member object easily, and then we can go through to there. So once you're in the object, it does have all the same options as you are used to in Classic, it's just laid out a little bit differently. So if we look along the left, this is everything we can obviously do in the object. So fields and relationships, we can see all the fields we have. We have another quick find box, which is useful and obviously wasn't there before. So we can easily find the field that we want. And then we have the same buttons we did before. So we can create new, we can add field dependencies, and we can set history tracking as well. The field set list will look relatively the same. So we've still got a description and you can access it the same way you did before. So getting back from the setup menu to the home page, what you do is you'd have to go through your app menu rather than just clicking back. And then we'd go back to Sage People HCM, and that will take us back to the home page where we started. Okay, so there will be some changes to the object you're used to going in. For example, if I click on team members, so obviously it looks different. We still have our list view, so you can set up your own lists. As before, we can drop down here and we can pick whatever list we want. One of the main differences here is we can now pin our list. So if I click on Active Employees Island, I can actually pin that. Which is useful if you're, for example, a HR manager profile and you want to see just everyone in your team every day rather than coming in and seeing most recent. We also have another search box here again, which is much smoother and easier to search for employees. So this cog is how we control our list views. So we can create new from here, we can edit filters. It kind of breaks it down, whereas before you did it all on the same screen. Okay, so one of the best little shortcuts to get to setup, from here, if we click on the cog, we can click Edit Object, and this will take us directly into the team member object that we were previously in. So much quicker to get around. Again, to get back, I'd click on my app menu, click on Sage People HCM, so I can do the same with all the other objects as well. So if I go into the employment record, for example, from this little component, when I'm in the employment record, I can do the same. Click the cog and I've got Edit Object. So I can then go to my employment record object. One of the best new features of Sage People Lightning is that we can now edit components on a page. For example, we are looking at the home page at the moment. If I decided that I wanted to see a different dashboard, maybe I wanted to get rid of this today's event component and maybe add a couple other things in, which you couldn't actually do in Classic. What we can do, click on the cog and go straight to Edit Page. So obviously not to be confused with page layout, which you still have under the object as we did before. So what we can do from here, we can change our dashboard. So if I click on my dashboard, we can then find any dashboard that's been created in the system. So I'm just going to change it to, let's change it to Workforce Insight. So we can also add filters around these easily from this part of the system as well. Okay. So if I decided I wanted to get rid of, for example, this today's events components, we have a little bin here, so we can just get rid of that. Maybe get rid of trending topics as well. And then we can add in something else that we may want to see on our homepage. For example, we might want to throw in a report chart. So we just pick that up and we can pop it where the other components were. So we can pick any report chart that we've already got set up. So I'm just going to pick, so it has to have a chart obviously connected. So I'm just going to go age v years employed. Yeah, not the best report, but you can kind of see what it does. So you can move things around quite easily on here. So something, as I say, we didn't have access to before, so really quite useful. Another thing that will probably be useful to have on your homepage, items to approve, so you can pick that up and drop it. Some of these items on the left will be quite Salesforce items, so some of them may be related to kind of sales rather than Sage People, but maybe have a little play around and see which ones you can add to your screen. So once you've changed, you can save. Okay, and then we have to go back to get back into the main part of the system. So it's not just the home screen we can do that on. For example, if I am on team member, and I go into a team member's record, so each of these sections are called components. So if I now go into the cog and edit page, we can actually, like we did with the home page, move the components around as we wish. So for example, at the moment we have our details and then we've got the related lists next to it. So sometimes that may look a little bit hidden, so you may decide you want that next to the actual details rather than kind of embedded within it. So to do that, I'll click on this component and I can delete the related tab, so only details will now show in here. Then what I can do in my components, I can find the related lists. So we've got a few options. We've got quick links, we've got a full list of related lists. So I'm just going to pop in my quick links for now at the top here. So you can still see all related lists, but you get a quick link to the ones you're probably most likely to use. And we've got our employment here, so we can easily get to the employment record, notes and attachments. But you can have a little play and add, whatever you want into there based on what we've got coming up here. We can even have a report chart as well. We could kind of build one around the employees, maybe how much holiday they've used or whatever information would be useful to your HR team. So once you're happy with that, click Save and go back. The biggest change within Sage People Lightning is definitely around the reporting. So let's have a look. So we can either get there using the tab in the object menu. We also have a drop-down list where we can see the recent reports we've looked at, and also we can have favourites in here as well. Another way we can get to reporting, if we go to App menu, we can just search for the object and click on Reports, and that will take us to the report screen. So the layout of this screen is generally the same, a few differences. So along the left, we have our reports, and then we also have folders and favourites underneath. So searching for a report, relatively simple. Click All Reports and then search the report you want to find. So all reports that are available to you in Salesforce, in Sage People Classic, and anything you've already set up will still be in here, and all your folders will be brought through to Lightning as well. So you can just find the report you want and you can click it from the list. So if I want to create a new report, I can click New Report. As before, it brings up the report type options. So I'm just going to add a team member, employment, salary and performance. So that means that this report can have fields from all of those 4 objects. So click on the report type and click Continue. So a few things to note when you first come to the edit screen on the report. Usually we had to change the filters, so we could change Show Me to all team members and also change the date range to all time. So now we're actually given these 2 little prompts in blue, so we can simply tick Show All Team Members, and we can see that filter changes, and we can tick All Time. So it's just nice, it comes up with that little prompt, so you don't have to remember to do that each time. Okay, so this screen, generally the same layout, but there's quite a few changes going on here to what you're used to. So along the left, we have all our fields. So this is where we can find any fields within the report that we may want to add. For example, if I double click favourite drink, it will appear as a column on the report. So I'm going to get rid of that one for now. So that's one way to add fields. Another way, we have this outline tab here. So this is probably the best way to do it really. And from here we can add columns and rows. So this kind of takes away from having to use the matrix and the summary options, which actually aren't available anymore within Lightning. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a column to my report. So I'm going to add HR department. I'm going to add manager. And then maybe age as well. Okay, so if I want to add a filter to my report, for example, to make sure there's no leavers there, same as we did before, we can go to the Filters tab, add a filter, find the has left field, and as we did before, has left equals false. We now have this little lock button, so what I can do is I can lock this filter down, so when people are just previewing the report on the run screen, they won't be able to change this filter. So click Apply. So that will now take out all levers. If I decide I want to make this a summary report, as we used to just change it to summary, now what we do on the outline tab, we'd add a group row. So I'm actually going to add HR department as a group row as well. So it'll be grouped by HR department. So we can now see how many people there are in each department. What you can also do is you can kind of break it down again by adding a group column. So this is where you're kind of building that matrix option that we used to have. So we could maybe add age range in here. So we can now see by department how many people we have in each different age range. So you can see you're really building up a kind of matrix report, or kind of like a pivot table as you would in Excel. So along the bottom, you can hide your details, so you can just see the overview of the information. You don't have to have totals if you don't want to, you can get rid of those. We can get rid of summaries. So now we can see sum of ages and the count as well. So there's lots of different things you can do in here now to kind of help build your reports. As before, you can also add formula fields or summary formula fields and buckets. To do this now under columns, you will have add bucket column. So as you would before, you pick your field, give it a name, and then you can add your different bucket options in here. So 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, and then over 50. And then you can obviously give them a name. And then apply. And that would do as it did before. So it would give you the age range. It will give you the age bucket. So once you've added that, you can also add that as a group column. So we could, for example, take out this age range and we could replace it with age bucket instead. So where we saw that age range before was just 20, 30. Now we'll see the ones that we've actually created in here. So as mentioned, you can also add summary and formula, exactly the same as you would before, but the option now sits under the columns. Okay, so we have the report that we want. What we can do now is a few options. We can add a chart, which we will do in a moment. We can save and run. We can go to the properties, or we can just choose to run. So I'm going to save and run this report. I'm just going to call this age report. So you can give it a description as you would, and then decide what folder you're going to put it into. So I'll just leave it in for private reports for now, because I'll show you where we can build folders afterwards. Click save. So the way our options along the top, once you run a report, they have changed a little bit from the classic view. So we still have add chart in here, which is great. What we can now do is also, if we had the details switched on, we can actually search for data within our report, which wasn't available before as an option. So if I search, for example, for Eric, let's say Denmark, we can see it actually finds data within that report now, which is brilliant. So we can also see our filters from here as well. If they're locked down, you won't be able to change them, as we've shown. But for example, this one, we can actually remove this if we want to. We can also click on it to change the filter. The refresh button, And that would be if you wanted to kind of update the data in the report. So edit would take us back into that report customize screen. And then we have a drop-down list of a few options here. So we can edit back in Salesforce Classic if you want to. We also have a save as option. So if we wanted to create a copy of this report, we could. So we've still got save there. So subscribe. Difference with subscribe now is we actually have our schedule under subscribe as well as the subscription option that we had before. So they kind of just put them under one option now rather than having two. The same with export. So previously, obviously, you could print details view and you could also do the just CSV export. So now you can do both from one screen and you can pick your encoding and stuff. So that's great. And what we can also do, if we have a chart, we can add it straight to a dashboard. So I am going to add a chart to this. So click Add Chart. Then you have your chart properties cog here, so we can decide how we want to see this. This is actually giving us a sum of age, so I'm just going to change my report slightly just so it's a bit better data to use. Okay, so now we can just see how many employees per HR department, which would be a bit better to add a report to. So again, I'm going to save and run. Okay, change my report, and this time I'm going to add in a donut report instead. So when you add it in, you can scroll down, you can add a title, so employees per HR department. You can decide how you want it sliced, so we can slice it by age bucket or HR department. You can show values and percentages as well, and you can show a total too. Okay. So once we've added a chart, we can then decide that we want to add it to a dashboard. So dashboards are a lot better within Lightning than they used to be in Classic. So what I can do is add it to a new dashboard, give it a name, so we'll just call it Test Dashboard. Description, testing. And then you can select whichever folder you want and click Add. So this will take us to the dashboard screen. So a lot more flexibility in here with what you can do. So we're just going to Okay, so we'll leave it as the donut chart that we had previously, but you can change it up in here if you want to. Click Update. And a bit more flexibility, you can actually make the report quite a bit bigger, so you can see it across the whole of the dashboard. You can obviously bring in other reports here as well. So if I click Add Component, maybe we'll add starters by location. And we can have it as just a normal bar chart or a funnel, or we can even just have a standard table, but we'll have a funnel chart. Click Add. And then you've got your report, so I could, if I want to, I could make this one a little bit smaller. And then you can put this one next to it. So it's a lot more flexible with what you can actually do with your charts. Okay, so once you've finished, you can save and click Done. And then as we saw earlier, we can now go to our home page. So click home and we can go to edit page. And that dashboard will now be available as a component. So that dashboard is now, the new dashboard we created is now added as a component. So we can save this and then go back to our home screen. And that will have updated our home screen. Okay, so that was an overview of some of the main changes within Lightning. So most of the kind of configuration and everything exactly the same. WX not changing at all. It's just some new little features that actually make it a lot better to kind of navigate around, and I think it's presented a lot better as well, which is great. So thank you.